Just taking a quick look at this new CX-50 Hybrid. So this one's actually got some other changes besides the hybrid powertrain. We do get new wheels and a new interior, a new exclusive red interior. Now they haven't showed any of this off yet. And this trim piece at the bottom of the bumper here, it's black. So normally on the normal CX-50 models, you can see it right there. Actually, I'm covering it a little bit. It's silver, and it's silver to kind of give it like a faux or fake skid plate look. Because this model, well, actually, you might think the CX-50 is supposed to be like a more off-road, adventurous, overlanding capable version of the CX-5. But guess what? Guess what? It's not. In fact, the CX-5 sits up higher. It has more ground clearance. You might be surprised to hear that. It's true. It is true. The CX-50 sits a little bit lower and it's a little bit wider. It's not the same car at all, in fact. You can't really blame yourself for thinking that this model is the kind of off-road version of the CX-5 because of the way they market this thing. I mean, look at this. Look at this. They have these like press photos with this thing like driving through the middle of the jungle. But, in reality, this thing, it's mostly intended for street use. So actually having a new hybrid model that gets excellent fuel economy, it makes sense. It makes sense in a lot of ways. Now you might be wondering, what, how do I actually go about picking a CX-50 to buy? Because if you've looked at the configurator on the Mazda website, you might be a little overwhelmed because in fact there's like a ton of different trims. I mean, this is like, to me, this is confusing. And now they're adding the hybrid. They're adding all these hybrid models to the mix as well. So hey, good luck choosing one of these. Now, of course, I've kind of tried to break this apart and make it a little bit easier for you guys to understand, what the heck is going on here. And you might be looking at this thinking like, what the hell? Why does it say Toyota? Why does it say Toyota over here? Well, guess what? This new CX-50 Hybrid, it doesn't have a Mazda engine or a Mazda powertrain or a Mazda engineered hybrid system. It doesn't, not at all, not even close. So you might say, well, what does it have? This is what it has. It has a Toyota Camry hybrid system in it. In fact, guess what? You might be a little disappointed too, because you don't even get all the power that the Camry hybrid system has. This thing, they're saying it's only 219 horsepower. So the Camry, actually, you can get up to, I think it's 232. So of course Toyota's reserving that for themselves. But, guess what? The Mazda engineers did have a little hand in how this thing drives. So, this is the saving grace. Here, you ready for it? It's basically the throttle mapping. This is what the Mazda engineers, this is their, basically, what did they contribute? This is what it is. This is what it is. So in most cars nowadays, the throttle, actually I think all cars, the throttle is actually controlled by a computer. So back in the day, the throttle pedal was actually physically linked to the throttle plate inside the engine by a steel cable. So, if you pressed it 20%, guess what? The throttle in the engine opened about 20%. So that's what this chart is showing here. Now, of course, you could have the engineers, they could program it to be like this. In a lot of cars, this is kind of how it is in normal mode. But you've probably seen this where, cars will have like an eco mode, right? So in this mode here, actually, if you press the pedal, let's say 50%, halfway down, you might actually only open the throttle plate inside the engine by like 30%. So the concept here is supposedly you're going to save gas. And then, obviously the opposite is true. Sport mode, it's going to actually give you more throttle opening, even if you just kind of like barely touch the throttle. And this is all psychological. You know, it makes it seem like it's a faster car. And you might say, well, so the Mazda engineers, they kind of played with this chart, with this graph. Whoop-de-doo, whoop-de-doo. Well, guess what? Actually, in a hybrid vehicle, there's another component here. There's a lot to tune, because you can have the pedal, you can have the map control the throttle plate inside the engine one way, and then you can have the electric motors, you can have a separate map simultaneously. So in fact, a lot of times in these hybrid vehicles, you can have, like, if you are in eco mode, guess what? You could actually have this lower curve, this one down here, you could actually have controlling the throttle plate inside the engine. So you're using less engine. And then this curve here would actually be the electric motor assist curve. So you're actually getting more electric assist. And you know, you can mix and match, you can imagine there's a lot to tune here. So now if you do have a mode like this and you are using it, guess what? You gotta make sure you get as much regen as possible. So when you're slowing down, no hard braking. Don't brake hard. You can't do that, because you're gonna use the regular brakes, the brake rotors, the brake pads. If you do that, in order to have the hybrid system capture as much energy as possible, the regeneration, you have to slow down slowly over a long period of time. So it just kind of, it can make a hybrid vehicle fun to drive if you kind of understand these things and if you want to play around with these modes. And so surely that's what Mazda did. That's what the Mazda engineers did. You know, so is it going to drive exactly like a Toyota Camry? Yeah, pretty much. But there might be a little bit more fun to be had in some of these modes because of the way they tweaked the pedal response to the gas engine and to the electric motors. You can get, hey, they're saying 38 miles per gallon combined. That's supposed to be an 8 with this thing. So, you know, and then obviously it's got a decent amount of power. Let's go back to that other chart. This one here, you might want to look over this one again. You might want to take a screenshot of this one, in fact. So, you know, you can see here, basically the hybrid has got, the power is kind of in between the regular Mazda 2.5 naturally aspirated engine and the 2.5 turbo. It's, you know, somewhere in between. But then obviously, yeah, the fuel economy is, there's no contest. There's no comparison here. So as long as you don't mind, you know, basically driving a Toyota, inside your Mazda. Now, what's interesting about this too is we've been waiting for the Subaru Forester Hybrid. So I really can't imagine that Subaru would go this route, because they're known for using those flat floor engines, right? So the engine actually goes like this instead of inline straight up, right? So I don't think they would use Toyota's engine. And maybe that's why we haven't heard about the new Forester Hybrid yet, you know, and we're already hearing about this. So I don't know, this was a shock to me, but let me know if you guys would consider this, especially if you are Mazda fans. Because this is a really cool vehicle. I talked about how it's not quite the off-road capable vehicle Mazda wants you to think it is. But it does look cool. It does look cool. And if you can get 38 miles per gallon in this thing, you know, hey,